everybody out there in TV land.
Hi, Jerry.
I'm Jerry Vilhauer, the current DRC president for at least a few minutes. So thanks for joining out there. A couple notes, I guess. First off, I don't know, 3 months ago or so, we voted to replace the 3.3 repeater with a new, smaller, modern Kenwood repeater. So it just showed up a day ago. Don't have possession of it yet, but just to let you know, that'll be happening. The present repeater is working fine. This was just an upgrade. The old GE repeaters, 1970s issue. So the repeater, the power supply weighs about 60 pounds, probably in the 68. Orland says the radio weighs a little less than that, but they take up a ton of rack space, and if it's to crap out, parts are not that available anymore. So anyway, just to let you know, that'll be in town here for long. Well, it's in town. We just got to decide how we're going to program it, or if they're going to program it, or if we are. Just some details like that. So Jeff was not successful getting a program for tonight. It's just increasingly difficult to get anybody to come speak, or even virtually speak. So I keep saying that if you hear of a program or you know of somebody that you think would be of somewhat interest to us, please let one of the officers know, let Jeff Irvin know, and he'll try to line them up. So we're kind of without tonight. We've got our elections, and then I don't know if we got anything queued up to watch if we want to, but we can do that, and then just everybody here is kind of just visiting. So our elections, this happens every September. If you don't know the way the board works, there's 8 board members, and so 4 of the board members are up for election or re-election every year, and then the next year the other 4. And so this year it's myself, Mark, Kevin, and Dick. As everybody knows, I'm going to step down. I've been president probably for way too long, and it's time that I step back a bit. I'll still be around to assist or whatever, but I'm going to turn the reins over. I think it's time, maybe past time. So I know, okay, I'm stepping down. Now Mark had said that he would like to, but he would stay on if we didn't have anybody to fill his shoes. Is that correct, Mark? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what we do is we elect 4 board members, or elect or re-elect, and then from the 8 board members, we elect the president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, and so that's how the rotation kind of goes. So let's see. First, I'll just say that we've got 2 people that are willing to take a board position. One of them is Brian Diem, and he's sitting here in his pretty blue shorts and been out playing golf, I understand. And so he's willing to be a board member if elected. And we've also got Ronnie. I can't remember your last name, Ronnie. Bach. Okay, we got Ronnie Bach. He's newer to the club. He stepped up and said that he'd like to help out and serve, and we applaud him for that. So we do have 2 candidates. I guess what I'd have to ask is that is there anybody else who wants to throw their hat in the ring, or not? If we got two candidates, two positions, nobody else is interested in running, that'll make it simple. But Mark, did you have something to say?
Nope.
No?
I'm
Okay.
glad we had two. That's awesome.
Okay. Yeah, Kevin, Dick.
Nothing?
So it's myself, Mark, Kevin, and Dick. So yeah. So right. Well, Kevin and Dick are willing to continue on in the present position. So how do we want to do this, Orland? There again, there's nominations for anybody. We've got Brian and we've got Ronnie that are willing to serve on the board. Now this, I say this is not for an officer. Well, you're an officer of the board, but this is for a board member. So yeah, anybody? So we'll say going once, going twice. Seeing no hands, seeing nothing on the screen, I would say we elect them by acclamation. Any objections? Hearing none, congratulations. Thank you.
Whose seat are they filling?
Seriously, thank you for stepping up. It's not an easy thing to get volunteers, so you'll enjoy the experience.
Whose seat are they filling?
Okay, now that we got that done, we need to
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
President, Vice President.
Hey, Jerry, Lakewood Room, can you hear us?
I'm sorry?
There was a question from Dick Nelson. He was asking whose seats are those going to fill?
Okay, Dick, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay, speak up. Go ahead.
You have two new board members, but which two are retiring?
Myself and Mark.
Okay.
So that would give us a complete board.
Okay.
Okay, you good with that? And then okay, and I think we've talked. You're willing to continue, I guess, and Kevin. Okay, Kevin's not here. He's in Hawaii, and I've talked to him, and he's he's plenty willing. So what we need to do now, I guess, is in Orland, you help me out if I'm stepping on it here, but we got to elect a president. Kevin has, so we'll nominate Kevin. He's willing to, or Orland will, or I will, somebody will. Kevin's this is a railroad, isn't it? Yeah. Kevin's a longtime member, knows the club, knows, I think everybody knows Kevin probably, unless you're a real new member. So anybody else want to throw their hat in the ring for president?
I'll nominate Kevin for president.
We got a second for Kevin's nomination. Thank you. Okay. Bill. Okay. So we got a motion and a second. Anybody else going once? Going twice? Any objections? So we will elect Kevin as our president. I will let him know. I think he had some suspicion of it. But anyway, thanks for watching the door, Jim. Okay, let me think a second. So now for vice president, and I guess I should have said for president, the qualifications is that you're a board member and that you've served a year on the board. That's the basic qualifications. So now we got a vice president. I know we asked Dick and he said, no, he didn't want to do that. I don't think, or would you consider it
I
being
would,
the
I
vice
would
president?
consider it.
He would consider it?
Yeah.
Okay. Orland nominates you. Second. Peter seconds. Anybody else want to throw their hat in for vice president? Appreciate it, Dick.
Yes, thank you.
Any objections? Looking and hearing none. Congratulations. This is going easier. I've been sweating this all day. Okay. Now, Secretary Treasurer, let me do a little explaining or try to. Kathy, my wife, she was treasurer for several years, and I think everybody agreed did a good job of it. And she was also a membership. Kelly took the membership, and that's going really well. When Kathy gave up treasurer, I nominated, what did I do? I appointed Kevin as a treasurer pro temp. Well, that's worked out well. And, there's nothing in our bylaws that says you can't be secretary treasurer. In fact, most organizations or a lot of, smaller organizations, I guess you could consider our small, secretary and it's the secretary treasurer. So, I guess we should do treasurer first. Orland's been treasurer since, or secretary since 96, because you were secretary. I came on the club and the board in about 90. I come back from Oregon in 90, so it was around 96, 97, 8, I don't know. It was past 97. So anyway, he's been secretary a long time. Done a great job. Anybody want to bump him out of being secretary? Seeing no hands. Yeah, the silence is deafening. Okay, so there's no objections. Orland will continue to be our able-bodied secretary. Now, for treasurer, like I say, he's been treasurer since Kathy gave up the position, and it's worked well. If there's anybody interested in being treasurer, there's quite a bit of work to it, and you gotta be treasurer. You gotta do all the money stuff and bank deposits so it's probably I've always said that I think the hardest job in the club is what Kelly's doing, the membership, because it never quits. It's continuous. And treasurer is kind of the same. We have money coming in all the time for membership, and then we get a monthly check from King Soopers. By the way, everybody that's doing that, we appreciate it. I think we got about $90 this last month. It started out around 30. So if you're King Super Shopper, go online and just tell them it's their reward program. Just go on and tell them you want the Denver Radio Club, and then they get we get a 0.5%, I think, of whatever you spend, and it costs you nothing. Yeah. And yeah, that could be tax and alcohol, but it's free money to the club, and we're nearly up to $100 a month, I think is it quarterly? Is it quarterly? Yeah. So if you haven't done that, please do it. Yo. Okay. Kelly's telling us from the back of the room that if you need any assistance signing up for the King Super Award program, contact her. You can contact her at membership at WZOTX.org, and she'll be happy to assist you if you got a glitch there with something. Yeah. The Denver Radio Club, Inc. Yeah, the Denver Radio Club, Inc. Like I say, it's free money. Okay, treasurer. Hello? No. But for what reason? Well, I don't think it's pretty well set up. Well, there you go. Audit. Yeah. Yep. Well, we're gonna. I think Peter and Dave Basinger were going to do that. For reasons. Well, maybe it was. Was he? Maybe it was. It was Dick and Dave Basinger. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Because you have to get all the names and the accounts and stuff. So is anybody want to be treasurer, or we'll take a nomination for Orland to continue with that? Anybody out there in Neverland got any comments? I see 6 other plus the guys I see here. Bill Rinker, I see you. Hello. Daron and a couple others. Anybody nominate Orland?
I'll nominate Orland for treasurer.
Okay, got 2 nominations. We need a second. Who wants the second?
I'll second.
Who second?
Daron, K1DBC.
Daron. Okay. Thank you. Well, congratulations, Orland. Orland's doing a great job. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
Kathy set him up with pretty good books, and he's jumped in there and really did it. So, okay, I think that's the end of elections. Thanks for stepping up. Like I say, I'm not going anywhere. I just think it's time. I think Kevin will make you a great president, and you need some new blood in there. So that's yeah, he might stay in Hawaii. Yeah. Anything else we need to talk about? We've got some possibilities of moving a repeater, but it's too early to talk about it. I've told you about the 3-3, and I guess at this point, is there any questions from anybody that's online here? Or Mark, you got any comments, or anybody? I see. Yo, you betcha.
We have not had any questions. We've had some congratulations from our YouTube channel, K0BF, Kenny, and KK6IPR, Secretary, South Bay Amateur Radio Association, congratulating everyone on their elections and nominations.
Yep, and I wanted to basically say the same thing. We've kind of had Jerry here with our president for quite a while, and Mark was a big person when I got on too, for helping me get into the tech committee and kind of getting me on the board and helping me with that too. So I just wanted to say thank you to both of you for all the time you've spent and the help you've given me directly. And I think just want to let's give a round of applause for them for doing that for so long. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
If our new president was here, we'd turn over to him. But like I say, he's basking in Hawaii. So, yeah, lamed up president. So, anybody in the floor, anything you want to talk about? Questions you want to ask? Or Peter? I don't know. We got a trip coming up. Let's talk and see. I don't know. I'm not really set up well to do Vara outside. I haven't even thought about it, but I don't know. Anyway. Anybody else want to say anything? Anybody want the mic? Sorry we don't have a program, but we try. Jeff tries hard to come up with stuff, but he had, I think, the guy from Ham Radio Deluxe, and then it didn't pan out for I don't know what reason. But
I do have something, Jerry. I have a few things we could share. We have something.
Sure. Yeah, you got some, because I'm just up here running my mouth. So.
Okay. Yeah. Few presentations lined up, 30 to 45 minutes a piece or so. We'll obviously only play one. Let's see. See if I can share my screen to go through these and see if anybody has any suggestions. Otherwise, see, blank screen here. War Plus radios. End of World War II resulted in a massive surplus of military radio equipment, including transmitters, receivers, and components. Mike Murphy, W2D, tells a story of war surplus in his presentation. HP Origins, how Bill Hewlett and David Packard formed HP from a documentary from 2006. HF Renaissance in the U.S. Army, Professor Colonel Stephen Hamilton, KJ5HY, Chief of Staff, Technical Director, gives a presentation on his introduction in HF Renaissance in the Army. Let's see, WWVH, our sister WDV time station out in Hawaii. I was thinking about maybe playing this one. Talk about a dream job. How about radio engineer? Beach in Hawaii radio station is WWVH, the U.S. NIST time and frequency station. And then that was about it. So if somebody has a suggestion otherwise, I might play one of these.
We've got one for a war surplus, and I'll put my name in for the hat on that one. That one looked pretty interesting from here in the room.
I'll second that.
Oh, and a third. So I think the war surplus from this side sounds good, Daron.
Perfect. I was making sure I wasn't unmuted on too many things. War surplus. Let's go with that. Give me a second. I'll get that started.
Thank you very much, Daron.
So as you guys know, I collect surplus World War II equipment, and I have it in my ham shack. And this got started early in my ham career. Basically, I have a YouTube channel where I do some of the surplus electronics on the YouTube channel. I have a Facebook page that has a lot of my work that, people are always saying, Mike, can you supply a schematic, or can you supply a parts list, or I need better photographs. I have a supporting Facebook page where I put my material. My interests include kids radio projects, including 70 and 80-year-olds that want to be kids again, building things. Surplus radio use and conversion on the ham bands. History and radio repair. I've done quite a bit of history for the AWA the last couple of years. And back in the late 90s and early 2000s, I did some things as well. I recently retired, so I've gotten back into the AWA. And I have an interest in retro QRP, that is QRP using tube type equipment and so on, as well as antique radio CW contests. In the 70s, of course, we were changing. We were getting into solid state. The hybrid rigs were out, and Japanese radios were taking over the world. Tubes were old tech. But a friend of my dad's dropped off a couple surplus pieces to me, an SCR 522 and a BC 652 tank receiver. And this is where I started to listen to CW, which was interesting. These look pretty cool. This was very unlike my Elmer. My Elmer was a 75-meter single sideband Netman. He was running at times the New York State Phone Traffic and Emergency Net, and he was a real modern ham and keeping up with state of the art. And of course, here I am interested in old tube type stuff and surplus stuff from World War II. I was going against everything he had taught me basically right out of the box. This is what the first receiver looked like that I got. And this is the SCR 522 aircraft transceiver that I received, which of course I had no idea to do anything. I had no idea how to handle any of this equipment. It turned out the receiver had a built-in power supply, so I hooked it up to an antenna. But this box that was given to me was fascinating, but I couldn't do anything with it. So this is the receiver, and here it is on the air. So we're looking at a receiver. This is the receiver that was dropped off to me. And this was my first receiver that I practiced code with, the BC 652 tank receiver. So I'm going to take it up to the novice band. I'm going to go up here. Now, one of the problems with a receiver like this is if you're looking at the dial, you can see we're at 3.7. Novices were only allowed to go from 3.7 to 3.75. So from there to there, bang, from here to there, just about 2 turns of the knob and you're out of the novice band. So not a great idea to have to use this thing on the air, but boy, I did. So war material, and this is material that was built in mass during World War II, shipped overseas. It's supposed to be expended when you're having a war. You're not supposed to bring it home. And basically, you're supposed to dispose of the material in country and don't drag it back to the United States where it will upset our industry with all this surplus in the country. But there was a lot of radio equipment, and the U.S. government could not see destroying all of the radio equipment. Plus, they had a bunch of ham radio guys that had donated a lot of material to the war effort. So they wanted to kind of reward the hams. So they had this War Assets Administration, and they sold off all this radio equipment, and a bunch of distributors were approved, 28 distributors, and these guys would further sell it down to all of the little radio shops that would open up after World War II. So this was government-owned surplus that was going to be sold off and bid on by the War Assets Administration. So there was a lot of armament surplus too. I mean, you could get some of these nice German Lugers for $49.95, but remember, $49.95 is like $700 today. So these are still, if you had gotten a hold of a bunch of Springfield rifles at $29.95 or $300 or $400 each, today those would be worth thousands of dollars. So if you went in there and bought some of this stuff, you could make some money if you just held on to it. So the other problem was the companies that were building the radio equipment in World War II, they had contracts. And even though the war was all but over, they kept shipping the stuff to the government. So a lot of the equipment was brand new in the box, and it still had to be disposed of by the government. So as you can see, all these surplus stores were opening up, selling all of this surplus equipment from World War II. Now, novices were the real recipients of a lot of this surplus gear. And having a fine receiver like the BC 348 in the shack was a big deal in the 50s and probably up through the 60s. I even had a friend that was using one in the 70s. And the BC348 is a great receiver. I had this T19 transmitter that I use as my first rig. So there's an old military radio net on 3558 kilohertz on Sunday evenings, and you can hear some of this stuff on the air.
It's funny, one of these little command sets was one of the very first receivers I ever saw for ham radio. These were given out to a lot of novices back in the 50s and early 60s so they could practice code. And usually a little power supply was built on the back. And War Surplus made a good receiver for novices. The entire CW band is from here to here, so it tunes pretty fast, but still useful for listening and code practice. So we're going to have to net the receiver to the transmitter. Well, the transmitter doesn't have any muting feature, so we have to turn the RF gain down. Only the relay is going to click the antenna away from the receiver. So this transmitter is going to be very loud. Somebody is tuning up already on frequency for the net. You can hear them tuning up. So we know we're on net frequency. Everybody will be using primitive military sets tonight. Some from before World War II, some World War II, some Korean, some Vietnam era, and there might be some Soviet bloc and Russian military rigs on as well. That's funny, one of these.
So you guys might have heard of this place down in New York City in Lower Manhattan called Radio Row. This is basically where the World Trade Center area is. And these stores were loaded with this surplus equipment. And many a kid rode the train into New York and had a bunch of radio equipment that he picked up for his paper route money and went back to New Jersey or out to Long Island with trips into Radio Row. These were some of the stores that were available around the country. And of this whole list, the only one I believe that is still open is Murphy's Surplus in San Diego. You might have heard that Fair Radio in Lima, Ohio, closed just a year and a half ago. Now, once the hams got these into their ham shacks, they realized that a lot of them needed some conversion, power supplies, teaming. Basically, it was rare to have a military radio that was ready to go out of the box on the ham bands, but many of them just needed a little bit of conversion help, and you could put them on the air on 80 meters, usually 40 meters, and some of them 20 meters. These conversion articles and manuals were popular all through the 40s, 50s, and into the early 60s. So let's talk about that VHF radio that I got as a kid. It was called the SCR 522, and it's a British design. And they basically sent the designs over, and we manufactured them here in mass quantities in Baltimore. This was a state-of-the-art transceiver. Crystal control push-pull using the new dual tetrode tubes. Multi-channel. The pilot had a little box and he could change channels on the fly. It covered all of 2 meters. It was AM mode, easily converted to 220. So this is the radio that was responsible for getting hams into VHF very, very inexpensively after the war. A very popular transceiver for conversion for hams. So this kind of started the 2 meter craze, and this is just the transmitter section out of one of those that I've converted to 2 meters. And I've got some fanciful rabbit ears on top, but you use a regular 2 meter antenna with it. The other one was the tank receiver that Armstrong put in the Sherman tanks. These are FM gear, wideband FM receivers. Kind of has those push buttons like some of the cars in the 50s. And these were very popular to use on 6 meters and 10 meters. But they also were converted into police radios, and that was a very popular thing to do with these surplus units, was to monitor your local police in Rochester with a BC 603 receiver.
So have you guys ever seen the Collins auto tune actually work? The ART-13 transmitter that's shown here, it was the main transmitter in the B-29 bomber in World War II. It allowed the radio operator to preset all the settings on the transmitter so that the pilot could just flick one of 11 different presets, and the transmitter would retune itself right up to the antenna tuning and everything just by flicking a switch.
What you've got with the ART-13 is an auto-tuning transmitter. Basically in 1944, this was used in the B-29 bombers. Basically, the pilot could go to any band, any frequency instantly, and the transmitter would auto-tune itself as well as the antenna. Hams wouldn't see this kind of memories and auto-tuning in their transceivers until probably the 80s. So it took a while to get this technology modernized. So this is what a B-29's radio suite looks like. And as you can see, you have an ART-13 auto-tuning transmitter. You have a BC-348 receiver, and these both cover from 2 to 18 megahertz. And they also have low frequency capability for, between 300 and 600 kilohertz for distress. These are the command transmitters and receivers. These are single frequency, set up on single frequencies for communication between aircraft. And I was told by an aircraft pilot, World War II pilot, that he never allowed these to be used. The last thing you wanted to do over Japan or Germany, especially, was to transmit. So they never used their radio equipment. They had it, but they never actually used it because you would instantly become a target of the excellent German radio direction finding, and the fighters would come up and get you. So this was for emergency only, the radio equipment in aircraft. This idea of the planes cooperating and talking to each other to shoot down enemy planes that are attacking them, that never happened. So a little side here, these are challenge coins. You guys might have heard of challenge coins. These are quite popular. The military and different federal agencies and even military suppliers and vendors have these challenge coins. Basically, people put them out as just giveaways, at shows and things. But challenge coins are a drinking game. Basically, you have a challenge coin in your pocket, and when you're drinking with servicemen, if one of them should throw the challenge coin down, everybody has to take out their challenge coin and put it on the bar. The person that has forgot their challenge coin or doesn't have one, has to pay the round. Okay, it's a drinking game. So you whip out your challenge coin in order to get a free drink. Now, in World War II, they did this as well, and it was called a short snorter. And this is a trick. You have your buddies sign the bill, and it could be a bill from any denomination around the world. In this case, I got this one from my Uncle Lou, who was fighting with the Chinese on the Burma Road against the Japanese. And a short snorter was in the pile of Japanese bills that he gave me. And I did the research and found out who the 3 people who signed this particular short snorter were. Same thing, you put this on the bar and everybody has to bring out their short snorter, or you have to pay the round of drinks. And as you can see, there's 3 quite famous people on here. One of them was killed in action in a firebombing raid over Tokyo, flying out of India. The second guy, David Lagoy, he was in Bomb and Buggy 2, survived the war, and the plane actually flew back to the States. And over here on the right, Pat Patterson, probably the most famous, he was one of the 2 or 3 people to actually get a P-40 off the ground on Pearl Harbor Day. He got his fighter in the air with the Japanese attacking Pearl Harbor. And he received the Distinguished Flying Cross, and the Air Medal. So that's just a little piece of history I got as a kid from my Uncle Lou, who fought in World War II on the Burma Road. This is Bomb and Buggy 2. This is the crew. That's one of the guys on that note is in this crew right here. They flew out of India across the hump, it was called, and attacked Japan from the back. So this was my first transmitter, the Venerable ARC 5 command transmitter. And I used this thing on the air when I first got my novice ticket. And it covered that little section around 3.7 megahertz where the novices were allowed to transmit. And that year, they allowed the novices to have a VFO. We didn't have to use crystal control anymore. I think it was 1974. So I used it as is, and it was a wonderful transmitter. It had a magic eye tube in the back where you could calibrate the dial. It's a pretty cool radio.
So let's talk a little bit about the ARC 5. The ARC 5 station, basically using surplus transmitters for novice use. This article ran in the ARRL handbook for many, many years because it was a low-cost way for novices to get on the air with the military surplus transmitter. So that was kind of the kickoff point. Now, by the time I got my novice, it was legal to use a VFO on the air. So I completely ignored this, except for the power supply section, which was very important, and used the ARC 5 transmitter on VFO control on 80 meters. So again, there were no real power meters available for novices readily. The Heathkit did make a power meter, but most people didn't have anything like that. Instead, they had these low-cost SWR bridges. The way you tested your transmitters, you used it with a 60-watt light bulb, and you illuminated the light bulb, and that told you were putting out enough power. And then you went to your SWR meter and got your antenna tuned up. Yep. Next, we check our SWR. Excellent SWR, no problems. Then we just send CQ.
So, these guys put out 40 or 50 watts. They still do the job on 80 meters, 40 meters, and people converted them for other bands like 20 meters and even 10 meters. This was a typical novice station in the 1950s, probably up through the mid-60s, using an ARC 5 transmitter and a BC 348. That's what it looks like on the inside with its dynamotor. It runs off the 28 volts of the aircraft.
The question is the World War II BC 348 a better CW receiver than yours? Around 40 meters. This is the crystal filter out and the crystal filter in.
So here we go. This is something I ran back in the 90s. This is an ARC 5 GoGo in the car. I have the ARC 5 receiver and transmitter in the car. This did about 25 watts of AM and a ball to use in the car on 75 meters. So this is my station. As you can see, it's mostly surplus equipment. It's got a lot of the radios that I was talking about. Here's the R390 receiver. This is from the 50s. And there's one of those tank receivers. And here's a Collins receiver. But this is all military surplus.
Now, as a kid, you might remember the story of PT 109 with John Kennedy, or maybe you watched McHale's Navy or something like that. These are the TCS twins, the transmitter. Now, for the prospective ham after World War II, not all of the surplus equipment was usable out of the box, but the TCS equipment shown here was absolutely practical. It put out about 15 watts of AM, and it put out about 30 watts of CW. And it was very stable, easy to use, And a lot of guys got on the air with these TCS sets as their first rigs. Now, as a kid.
So one of my big projects was doing a tank setup. I wanted to have a World War II tank setup. So I finally found the transmitter, and this is this is the transmitter being delivered to me at the Hamfest. That's what it looked like. And, I start to restore it as best I can. I had to make these little dials for it. I had to do a lot of work to get it to this far. Using the wrinkle paint to try to bring parts back to life and things looking good. Finally got the filaments lit. I had to make a high voltage power supply out of a pair of microwave oven transformers. And that's a pretty scary looking power supply, but it powers this beast. And I use it on the air. It works CW and AM on 80 and 40 meters. So here's another gem. I actually got this one at the AWA flea market, I think in around 1999 or 2000.
We wanted to net this signal. We want to get on his frequency. We go to our tank, we press the net button. We've zero beated it. Now we go back to CW. He will sound normal. And now when we transmit, we will be exactly on his frequency. So this is how the transceiver is netted. You might be asking, what does the wireless Set 19 represent in terms of equipment in a typical armored vehicle? Well, if you take the American...
I just want to stop this for a second. Did you see how when you put the key in, it goes to transmit, and when you take the key out, it goes to receive? That's a safety mechanism inside the tank. You don't want a key flopping around all over the place and you accidentally transmit. So it only transmits when you plug in the key and it mutes the phone. It's kind of neat.
An equivalent of how much equipment it would take to replace the wireless Set 19 in a tank. Let's look at what the Americans entered the war with the Lee Grant style tanks that were the first Lend-Lease tanks that were sent over into the North African theater. So first you needed an HF receiver, and here we have the BC652. Then we have the BC653 main tank transmitter. Okay, so this covers from 2 to 6 megahertz, and the wireless Set 19 actually goes all the way to 8 megahertz. So it's already giving you more coverage than this American set. The wireless Set 19 also includes a VHF type receiver, and the VHF receiver allows tank-to-tank communications with a simple super-regenerative receiver. Let's look at something that would represent that on the American side. And here we have the BC322 Super Regen transceiver. Essentially, that circuit inside the wireless 19 as well. But beyond all this, the 19 set also includes the tank's intercom services. On the American tank, that would be the BC322 or equivalent. So you really have a system that is miniaturized, easier to use, and much, much smaller.
So the British wireless Set 19 was to replace all the equipment that got lost in France when they were, defeated by the Germans in France. They had to leave all of that armor behind, and the wireless Set 19 was their commercial off-the-shelf transceiver that replaced all that missing equipment. And it was much more state-of-the-art than the American gear, which would weigh about 5 times more than the wireless Set 19.
You wanted to net.
So I'll talk a little bit about spy suitcase sets. This is something that a friend of mine is really into. He has several of these from all over the world, and they're really, these were used for the guys that were sent in country to communicate back over the channel and report on, activities, usually in France and the Scandinavian countries that were under occupation of the Germans. This is a B2 spy set from the SOE. This is a typical spy set that would be sent in with a communications agent. And as you can see, it has a little key on top. My friend picked this up just 3 years ago, complete with all the accessories. So stuff like this is out there. And as a lot of us hams get older and pass away and things become available, suddenly you can get your hands on something that you couldn't touch 15 years ago, a real spy set from World War II. Some people are into green radios, and green radios are Korean War and Vietnam War era, Cold War era radios. These are mostly field radios, both handheld and backpack style radios, and these are operated mostly in the 6-meter band. Some of them are HF, but most of them are used on 6 meters for reenactors. They put them in their Jeeps, they put them in their trucks, and this is another popular side hobby of ham radio is military vehicle collecting. This is a interesting set. The BC-654 is a Crosley. This predates World War II. It's known as kind of a mule pack radio, a little bit too big for one man to carry. These were available before the war and saw a lot of action against the Japanese as coast watchers or ship watchers on all the islands watching the Japanese convoys. They would report on the BC-654. It used a hand crank generator, so you could use it in the woods. You didn't need to worry about a power supply. You just had to have a few strong people cranking the power all the time you're transmitting and receiving. This is a Korean War item. This is an FM transceiver. There's many of these that were converted for ham service in the 6-meter band during the 60s. But these are wideband FM equipment, useful mostly for 10 meters and 6 meters. Now most everybody is using narrowband FM, so there's not a lot of this out there. But again, the military reenactors and the military vehicle collectors still use this gear regularly. This is the famous BC-611. This is an AM walkie-talkie that was designed by Motorola, and this was used in World War II. Had a range of about a mile and was probably the only thing functional on D-Day, because most of the radio equipment either didn't get deployed, didn't get to the beach, or was sunk. So this is a radio that actually made it to D-Day, even though it was just talking to ships offshore for support cover. As you can see, this one's made by Nippon Electric in Japan. We were giving a lot of military contracts to the Japanese and to the Germans post-war to start to build up their industry again.
So down on the floor here, I've got a couple of interesting radios. To the right is the GRC-9, or the Angry 9. This was a pack set radio that was developed late in World War II, but actually it didn't see a lot of action until the Korean War, and these were used up through the early Vietnam years. Actually, the Viet Cong, the North Vietnamese used French versions of the GRC-9 all during the Vietnam War for CW in the jungle. And we found that the near vertical incidents and communications using the GRC-9 outperformed the American FM equipment that was popular during the Vietnam War. It was a lot more effective in the jungle conditions. To the left, I've got a spy set that was dropped into France during World War II. This is the famous Paraset, and there's a reproduction that I put together for the Paraset. So down on the floor,
So the Paraset spy radio was reproduced by the SOE to drop into France. The problem with this radio was the person that used it usually didn't live very long because the Germans would use radio direction finding techniques. And most of the women that used these, and yes, it was mostly women that were dropped into France because it was easier for them to fold into the countryside, and with good French, they could pass off as locals. So they were coordinating the resistance. And this particular transceiver was about 3 watts output power, maybe 4 watts output power, and it used a regenerative receiver. And that regenerative receiver could get you in trouble because once it's in the autodyne mode where it's oscillating all the time, the Germans could do radio direction finding on the received signal. So this was a dangerous radio to have. And if you didn't move around a lot, you could be picked up very, very quickly using these spy radios in France. So finishing up here, remember safety in the shack. This is not my shack, by the way. This is a real shack, though. This is the basement of WA1HUD. I call it three-dimensional junk. I mean, you could reach in any direction and come up with a tube or an interesting part or transformer falling on your head. It is high voltage, guys. So all of this stuff is high voltage. You have to be very careful with it. So will it ever end? And the answer is yes, it will end because fair radio sales closed a couple of years ago, and this is where most people got their surplus. So really, it's all out there now, and basically you just have to look at the ham flea markets and pick up some of this gear and play with it. More and more of it is becoming available as whole collections hit the ham flea market again. And a lot of these guys collected for many, many years. So there's thousands of pounds of this stuff showing up, and there will be some at the AWA flea market. So keep your eyes open, coming right up in October.
All right, that was it.
Thank you, Duran. At the conclusion of the meeting, as vice president am I now in charge. Let's see, Kevin's not here. Jerry probably's gone home. So I guess I call our meeting to a close and thank everyone for being here.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you everybody who came in person.
Yep. Okay, over and out.
Thank you all.
All right. Later.
Night.